Welcome to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.
Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. We've got a great guest today. I'm going to tell you, I love bringing on players who've already played in NFL. They've already completed the journey and still doing the journey and doing a great job. But we have a gentleman today that I remember meeting when he was 16 years old at Haynesville High School. He was one of the top recruits in the country as an offensive lineman and D-lineman. Ended up playing D-line, which, thank God, that's where he played because he had a great career. Demetric Evans from Haynesville, Louisiana. Demetric, thanks for joining us. All the way from Allen, Texas, right?
That's correct. Thank you, Lee, for having me on.
Before we get started with Demetric Evans, who is now working for the NFL, helping guys transition when they retire. We'll talk about that later in the show. I want to thank two sponsors that we have that we're building this show with, and it's going to be special when we go to video in about a month and a half. Harvey Toyota out of Shreveport, Louisiana. Be sure to check them out. Please tell them that that Lee sent you, and take them into them about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships worth checking out: John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. And also Medine's Collision Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on Kincaid Avenue. The number to call is 225-357-7983. That's Medine's Collision Center. Family owned, just like we are. Family owned since the 1960s. Getting back to Demetric Evans. Demetric, I want to brag on you for a few seconds. You played in the NFL, but I remember meeting you when you were in Haynesville and you did a camp at LSU. You must be having some dishes or something. I hear something in the background there.
No, I guess that's maybe my ceiling fan or maybe my chair.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
But Demetric Evans was a guy that, we didn't have 5 stars back in the day or 4 stars. We just had guys like me that said, hey, you D1 or you're 1AA or D2, D3. And I remember Demetric coming to a prospect camp, and I had read up on Demetric, and I saw him play. And I remember, Demetric, when you were about 225 in weight, 6'4", and you were playing O&D line for Haynesville. All-state, all out, man. You brought it. And that's what impressed me about you in high school. You brought it, and you could tell that you were going to be a big guy one day. You ended up being 275 pounds in the NFL playing defensive end. But remember those days when you were barely 220 and you were going both sides of the ball for Haynesville and Coach Red Franklin?
Yeah, when you play for Haynesville High School, you have to play both ways because we limited in the number of players that actually from our school, because we 2A, we're a smaller school, we limited on the number of students that we have. So going both ways, actually going 3 ways, special teams, offense, and defense, kind of like was the norm for most of us.
And you were a 3-year starter. Get this, 3 consecutive state titles from 94 to 96. Man, that was phenomenal. 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, when at that time, Haynesville, we was rolling, and we were a blue-collar team because Haynesville is a blue-collar town. And, it was some great memories. And honestly, we was undefeated until my senior year, and we lost the first game of the year to Spring Hill. But we still won state that year, but we lost 2 games my senior year.
You went on to play for the Georgia Bulldogs, had a good career with them. You got a degree in consumer science. You got your master's from the University of Alabama. You probably thought I didn't know that. And you were honored with the 2019 40 Under 40 awarded by the University of Georgia. That's a pretty big deal. And you married Dr. Angel Evans, and you have 2 sons, Noah and Logan.
No, that's all correct. The 40 Under 40, I think, was a surprise because I don't live in Georgia. I didn't go to high school in Georgia. I'm not really affiliated with UGA. I'm a donor, but for the most part, I do everything back in Texas and Louisiana. So that was a cool, unexpected honor. Being married, I met Angel when I was training for the combine. in Houston, and she was just finishing undergrad, heading to medical school. And yeah, man, 2021 now, June, 2 kids later. Been married now for 16 years. So right. Yeah, man, it's funny how time flies.
Time flies. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to Demetric about Haynesville in northern Claiborne Parish, Louisiana, in North Louisiana, right south of the Arkansas border. Population in 2010 was 2,327 people. And you would think 100,000 people live there with the way they compete in sports. What an incredible town, Haynesville, Louisiana. We'll be back with more Demetric Evans in just a second. Listen, whatever you're driving right now, Tommy Harvey wants it. Bring it in to Harvey Subaru, Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City, or John Harvey Toyota. They're paying big bucks for all trades right now. They'll cut you a check right there. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm your host, Lee Brecheen. Our guest today is Demetric Evans. Demetric, remember meeting you, again, when you were at a prospect camp at LSU, watched you play a few times. Tell everybody about the recruiting process, because when you were being recruited, you were under the radar. I thought you were D1 the whole time. But you were under the radar. I remember at the LSU camp, they did not want you as a D lineman. Tell that story to people. They wanted you as an O lineman.
Yeah, Jared Donaldo and his staff felt that I would be suited to play offensive line. And I think my head coach, Coach Franklin, felt the same way. So for me, once you start taking recruiting visits, and at the time, we did have those football camps at different schools. And when you've seen guys like Marcus Stroud and Albert Haynesworth, and you're just like, there's no way I'm going to be able to block these guys consistently. Yeah. So for me, playing offensive line was total turn off. But fortunately, I was able to have, enough schools wanted me to come and play D-line.
Well, you grew into a DN, though. Not everybody has to play D-tackle nose guard. Like you said, you being a DN, you can rush the passer. You became a very good pass rusher at Georgia and in the NFL, playing with Dallas, Washington Redskins. Well, Washington. I can't say Redskins anymore, right? San Francisco,
football team.
Yeah, football team. San Francisco 49ers. And you played in Europe with Colin Centurions in Europe as well. But, NFL, you had 15 sacks in your career. You had 174 tackles in 126 games. You're currently working for the NFL. Tell everybody now, Demetric, what you're doing. You told me that you're helping guys transition, that when they retire, that you're one of those guys for the NFL that helps them with the transition when they're finished.
Yeah, we have a company, the Trust, that's powered by the NFLPA, the National Football League Players Association. They help guys who transition out of the league who had at least 2 credit seasons, because beforehand, if you had anything under than 4, you didn't receive any post-career benefits. So what we do is help guys when they transition out the league with some benefits that they wouldn't have had otherwise. A lot of those guys still want to go back to college and finish their undergrad. They want to get a certificate and, maybe getting their real estate license, CDL license. We help subsidize all those costs.
I want to mention, too, that you're doing a great job. When we come back, I want to talk about how you're running a lot of camps with some of these recruiting services around the country. You come in and help with linemen. And also I want to ask you about one of your relatives that I'm hauling, Joseph Evans, a D lineman at LSU, who I think is going to be phenomenal this year. I think this is his year to dominate. And your other relative, Doug Evans, did pretty good in the NFL as well, playing at Louisiana Tech from Haynesville. I remember Bobby Ray Tell, too. You remember Bobby Ray?
That's great. Yeah, I know Bobby Ray.
Big-time running back, huh, Demetric, during his time?
Now, you're talking about on the radar. I think he was on the radar, because especially during that time, as you know, Lee, North Louisiana never really got the respect of putting out some of the top athletes in the state. It was always the schools around the capital, which was very unfortunate. But
I always promoted them. I always have promoted all the guys, man, and I was up in North Louisiana, still do. COVID, I wasn't able to travel, and it just killed me
Right.
because I go to North Louisiana 12, 15 times a year for high school football, and I'm so happy I'm going to be going back to Shreveport really soon and getting back to the Haynesville area, Spring Hill, and all those areas of North Webster. So it's really hard to say North Webster now. Spring Hill High School, now North Webster. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask Demetric about his thoughts with Joseph Evans. I know what he's going to say. Joseph Evans' future at LSU this year is going to be his year to break out at D-line. We'll be right back. Looking for a used car? Harvey Autos has 3 dealerships, which means 3 times the used vehicles. They've got everything from fuel-efficient compacts to luxury models, even hybrids, and certified pre-owned with a warranty. Check out John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, or Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Welcome back. You're listening to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Demetric Evans, one of my favorite former Louisiana natives that played in the NFL. Got his degree, doing great right now, living in Allen, Texas, right outside, right there in Dallas. Heavily involved with football. We'll talk about that. But what do you think, Demetric, about your cousin Joseph Evans, a big D lineman at LSU from Haynesville? He's got a chance to be a real good player, doesn't he?
Yeah, honestly, I thought he would be suitable at playing center initially because a lot of people don't know this, but he had an offer to go to Yale to throw the shot put. So I was like, look, you 6'1", 6'2", today's D linemen, they 6'5", and I just felt like with his IQ, playing center would be a great fit. But
yeah.
Andre Carter, who's my teammate with the Washington football team, is his D-line coach.
I didn't know.
For LSU.
I forgot about that, man.
Yeah, so Dre, we have a great relationship, and he called me and was like, hey, man, your cousin legit. And I was like, man, you know what? That's what's up. But I hope he makes y'all look well on D-line. But, yeah, he definitely said that Joseph is a very explosive kid. I know he's disciplined. I know he's smart, but just to be able to have the proper pad level, use his hands, he's strong, he works hard. So now it's just all about staying healthy and just continue to progress.
Demetric, what do you think of Andre Carter? He's your former teammate from Washington, now the LSU D-line coach. What kind of hire was that for LSU? He was a phenomenal football player. I remember watching him as a DN. He was a freak of nature back in the day.
Well, I think Andre Carter comes from a line of coaches. His dad was a NFL coach, and his dad also played in the NFL, so he's always been around football. Andre, as a player, he was a quiet guy, though. He wasn't very outspoken. He kind of just went about his business, so I can't really say as far as his coaching skills because you got to be verbally to your players as a coach. But I know he knows the game. He played a long time. He was the 7th pick to the 49ers in 2001. And as I mentioned, he's been around his whole life, so it's in his blood.
Who was stronger, you or Andre? He looked like he could bench 500, just the way he looked.
It depends on which muscle are we working. Are we talking about squat, power clean, bench? There are definitely different exercises that you can, max someone on. But if you just want to do an overall, just if we had to max out, who would probably be the strongest in their maxes? I don't know. That's a good question. That is a good question.
Y'all are pretty close.
I'm gonna tell you,
pretty close. Huh?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Well, at that time, the Washington Redskins, now it's the Washington football team, we didn't lift weights traditionally, meaning we didn't go in there and max on bench and we didn't max on squats. It was more about injury prevention compared to when I was with the 49ers and Cowboys. It was all about who's the strongest, right? So
yeah.
I would have never competed with him regarding as a D lineman in the weight room. But no, make no mistake about it now, Andre definitely was a specimen, though. He definitely was.
Yeah, y'all were built height-wise similar, but build-wise, he was always a little leaner.
Slimmer.
He was always a little leaner.
Yeah, he was slim. Yeah, he was slim. Andre has a great DNA when it comes to his DNA makeup, his body fat, for sure.
I want to mention this. Haynesville has won over 17 state championships. Isn't that incredible, Demetric?
What is that rank in the state?
I don't think anybody's won 17 titles.
Not Curtis?
What Curtis has only won. Curtis is the only one that's won over 17. And I would say West Monroe's not – it's not that. They're probably right under probably 10, or I don't have my records in front of me, but I know Western Row doesn't have 17 or more. Or Evangel, which they've got a few. But the old Estruma, the old Jesuit, I don't think they're even near the 17 or more. But I would say, second or first in the state of Louisiana in the history, which I want to ask you that. We're going to take a break. I want to ask you about the legendary Red Franklin, what it was like playing for Red. And now David, his son's done a great job for many years taking over. But when we come back, I want to get Demetric's thought on Red Franklin, one of the icons of not just high school football, but nationally one of the greatest coaches ever to coach high school football. We'll be right back. So, hey, guys, just wanted to take a minute to tell you about Harvey Autos. If you need a new or used car, there's 3 great dealerships right here worth checking out. John Harvey Toyota, Harvey Subaru, and Lexus of Shreveport, Bossier City. Low prices, honest people. Tell them Lee sent you. Welcome back. You listen to the Sports Scouting Report. Our guest today is Demetric Evans, former Haynesville High School All-State D lineman, O lineman, played D line in the NFL with the Washington, Dallas, San Francisco, played for Georgia, the Bulldogs. Demetric, what's your thoughts on Red Franklin and how big of an icon he was and what he meant to you when you played for him?
I think when you initially play high school football in Haynesville, it's just like one of those things that you're supposed to do, right? I don't think you really look at Coach Franklin as the Hall of Fame coach that he is now. At the time, you just knew that Haynesville football was supposed to always win, right?
Yeah.
But as you get older, you realize they winning because they have a staff and a system in place that works, and they stick to what works. Now, looking back on it, Coach Franklin I think he was a defensive-minded coach, and I think he understood personalities, and I think he understood how to motivate kids. And I think he just had a great run of a lot of talent in the town of Haynesville that wanted to win and that was disciplined. And it showed with the success he had as head coach.
Moving forward, changing the subject a little bit to Georgia. A lot of people want me to ask you this question. You were in Outback Bowl in 2000, and y'all beat Purdue, which I can't believe that's 21 years ago.
Right.
You played for some good coaches, but now you got Kirby Smart. What do you think of Kirby, and when does the pressure get mounted pretty good for him to win a championship with all that talent that he gets every year?
I think Kirby was in a great situation. He's born and raised in the state of Georgia. He was an all SEC safety. He went and his tutor was Nick Saban. And then he ended up staying in the SEC, so he knows how to build an SEC team. I think the pressure is always on as a coach because college football is one of those machines that is what have you done for me lately?
Right.
And especially with the way the talent now is coming into these schools, coaches are always on the hot seat. I think Kirby, though, has bought himself so much time because he's good at what he do. He can relate, and he's won. You know, last year, unfortunately, they didn't have a quarterback, in their opinion, to get things done consistently. But I think Kirby is going to be at Georgia for a while. I really do.
So a lot of people, like you said, it's what have you done for me lately? But hey, Alabama's cost him 2 national championships. LSU cost him 1, Joe Burrow. And
those teams were, right. and that's not a loss, really, right? Yeah. When you talk about LSU season, that was history, right? That doesn't happen every year. Right. And then, of course, Alabama, they're a powerhouse. I mean, they reload every year. So I hate to say it because I know third place is not what you're aiming for, but when you can always be in top 5 and you can recruit well and your boosters are happy, that's what it's about at college football.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just what it's about.
Well, you know, Georgia's got a kid from Louisiana that might start at center this year, Cedric Van Pan from Warren Easton in New Orleans.
I remember.
He's a good kid, man. 4.3 GPA, Demetric.
That's amazing.
6'4", 290, runs a 5 flat. High technician of the game, very mature for his age with the technical side. Redshirted because of COVID, but remember that name, Cedric Van Pan. He's going to be an all-SEC center for Georgia, if not this year, the following year. I think Trey, their senior coming up, is going to be an NFL prospect, but I think Van Pan's going to get in the lineup. He's like the sixth guy if there's an injury.
No, I'll definitely put him on the radar.
Yeah, so he's a big-time player. Major Burns just left Georgia to come back to LSU. What do you think of this transfer portal? Guys transferring back into the conference and not sitting out. What do you think of that?
I mean, me personally, I'm going to put it like this, Lee. When I was in college, it was very unfortunate that a coach could come in your living room and recruit you and tell you, you can come to my school, you're going to start, you're going to play. This is what he tell you in front of your family. And then you get there, and it's not exactly what he told you. Mm-hmm. You had other options than that school. So I feel like if coaches can leave schools without no obligation, why shouldn't the kid be able to maximize his only 4 years of eligibility at a school that he could play at rather than sitting the bench?
Yeah.
That's just my philosophy, because I feel like he's on scholarship because he's a football player, right? That's the only reason he's at your school, to play football. If I am not playing football, why am I here? And I don't think that is a selfish mindset, because everybody always want to know what's in it for me. Let's just be quite honest, right? So I never signed a letter of intent to go play at Georgia to be a cheerleader.
Right.
I mean, that's just facts. That is facts, right?
Well, and since we're talking about it, and you lived it, a lot of guys.
And my point. So, Lee, check it out. So let's say if I wanted to transfer from Georgia, you know who had to make that decision? Jim Dunn, the head coach.
Yeah.
So now let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I was told I was going to come to Georgia. I was going to be a starter. Worst case, compete for a starting job, playing 40 snaps a game. It doesn't work out. Hey, I want to go back home and get close to home so my family can see me play.
Yeah.
Nah, Demetric, I'm not going to let you out your scholarship.
Yeah.
Well, now they don't have to have the coach blocking them.
Right. Just go.
Right.
And
right.
Well, you know what I think this brings sizzle here is if LSU plays Georgia this year. Let's just say they go back. Let's just say LSU plays Georgia in Atlanta. Let's just say it happens this year. You got Eric Gilbert lined up as a tight end receiver from LSU now at Georgia. Now you got Major Burns from Georgia at LSU. That's going to bring a lot of heat, don't you think? It's going to bring a lot of emotion.
Oh, no question. It's just like being in a bad relationship.
Right.
The next time you see your ex, you want her to see you with a chick that look better than she did, right?
Right. That's good.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
It's bad blood. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that people don't realize, that they never played college sports, so they never really been around it.
Right.
You only have 4 years of eligibility.
Right.
So if I had over 20 offers, I know I can only play at one school, but why am I sitting on the bench to be a cheerleader when a lot of guys get bitter in that manner?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I want to play just like everybody else. I want to play. And people will say, well, if you're good enough, you can play. Not necessarily true, because what if Jalen Hurts would have sat on the bench by Alabama? He would have never had the year he had at Oklahoma.
Right. Or Tua wouldn't have sat for 3
Tua,
years.
right? Yeah. It's like, let's be real.
And here's what people don't understand. I know this because I've been around it my whole life. Even though I didn't play college ball, I know a lot of guys like you that have, or played, pros, college, or both. They don't realize that a kid, when they go to that college, that it's an 18-hour day.
Facts.
You know that. It's an 18-hour day. It's not. Most people go, well, he just went to practice 2 hours a day and in school. No. It's an 18-hour day.
Well, Lee, most importantly, this is where they manipulate you. Well, you're getting a free education. Okay, so let me break that down, right? So let's think about it. Is it really free if I can't pick my own major? Because my major dictates around football schedule, around the practice schedule.
Right.
So I can't take classes if I have to be at practice. So that's going to dictate what major I can only take.
Right.
Right? So that's the manipulation they use. Well, hey, it's a trade-off. You get a free education, you obligated to play for us. Well, it's really not free because I don't get to pick my major, nor is it free because I'm working for you guys. Like you mentioned at Georgia, during the season, we started working out at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then you're done at 7, you go to breakfast, you go to class, you're done with class at 12.
Tutors.
You have lunch.
Tutors.
Right, you're done with lunch. At 1, you go to the facility, you meet from 1 to 3, practice at 3:30, you're done at 5:30, you watch film of practice, you have dinner, you go to tutors, you do it all over for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. That's what they don't know. They just go, you just go to class 3, 4. No.
No, nowhere close. Nowhere close. You are so micromanaged.
Yeah,
every minute.
Yeah, that's why some guys want to coach pros and not college, because they have to coach that many hours. It's their 80, 90 hours, and pro coaches don't have to do 90 hours unless you.
I think the biggest thing with me, if I wanted to coach at the pro or college level, the reason why I would not be attracted to college is just the recruiting process.
Yeah.
A kid commit, he decommit. You back on the road and you talking to parents constantly, kids coming to the school. And I get it as a coach. Things happen. Sometimes guys get beat out, guys get hurt, but it's just a tough gig. It's a tough gig in college.
And managing the roster right now is hard. It's tough. It was tough before, now it's tougher because, like you said, we're all in a kid being able to go where he needs to go and go back home or do whatever to get to play or a better situation. But at the same time, the coach, this is not free agency in the NFL, but yet he's got to make it work to complete his depth chart. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask Demetric Evans who he thinks is the greatest running back to ever come out of Louisiana and North Louisiana, and see if he's got a couple of running backs to think about from North Louisiana who he thinks are the greatest. And I'm going to throw out my favorites that I've seen in my 30 years, Demetric. We'll be right back.
Parents, are you looking for advice on getting your high school athlete recruited by the right college? Lee Brecheen is your answer. Lee has been doing it for over 30 years. He knows the ropes, and more importantly, he knows the people. Lee offers turnkey service from evaluation, creating highlight tapes in the correct format, and complete guidelines for effective communication with the schools. No matter the sport, girl or boy, no matter what grade your child is in, let Lee Brecheen help match your child to the right college fit. Go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com, and get connected today.
Welcome back to the Sports Scouting Report. I'm Lee Brecheen, your host. Our guest is Demetric Evans, calling us from Allen, Texas, and Dallas. And I know we're going to be talking about your two boys one day, really soon in football, right, Demetric?
I don't know.
Yes, no.
I don't know. It's one of those things where they have no interest whatsoever. Both of my boys are on swim team.
Okay.
My oldest have a junior Olympic time in the free and the back, and he also run track, and my youngest run track and play soccer. So I don't know, man. They don't have an interest in football right now, but they still young, so we'll see.
Well, hey, look, we're going to support them the fullest if it's swimming, right? If they get scholarship in swimming, So.
Hey, listen, I just want you to be a kid, and I want you to do what you feel your greatest skill set and the sport that you enjoy doing, right? That's what it's all about.
That's the kind of dad that's doing it the right way. Just don't
Well,
burn
I appreciate that.
Don't burn them
Yeah,
out. Man. You being a former player,
Exactly. Let me tell you something. If you don't want to play football, that is not the sport to sign your son up for, okay?
That's it.
That's not. If your son doesn't want to play, do not sign your son up to play football because he will get hurt.
All right, I'm going to give you my favorite running backs of all time in high school football in Louisiana in 30 years. And then I want you to give me a couple, 2 or 3, in North Louisiana. I'm going to give you South first. Leonard Fournette, St. Augustine High School, was probably the best I saw South Louisiana. And Dominique Davis at Breaux Bridge, Kevin Falk at Karen Crow, Kenny Hilliard in high school at Patterson, and Justin Vincent in high school at Barb. And Leroy Horde at St. Aug, who went to Michigan, was a great running back. North Louisiana, my favorites, Anthony A. Train Thomas from Winfield High School, John Stevens from Spring Hill, which is now North Webster, Roosevelt Potts from Rayville, 6'1", 250, ran a 4.4. Devin White from North Webster, and obviously my all-time favorite before I was born, but probably the first big back, Billy Cannon from Ostrom in South Louisiana. And then you got to go John David Crow, won the Heisman Trophy from Spring Hill, went to Texas A&M. Who are some of your favorite running backs?
I can't put them in the North and South order like you, because growing up in North Louisiana, we didn't see a lot of South football film or on TV because of just the demographics, or we was 2A. But I'm just going to say, I'm going to name you a couple of guys that I just thought was good high school football players. One, I would say Cecil Collins.
Yes.
I would say Okie Woods. I would say Kevin Falk. I would say Bobby Ray Tell. I would say running back. A-Train, Anthony over in Winfield. Yeah, A-Train was nice. I would say, and I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you a wild card. I'm going to give you Travis Minor.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, from Catholic.
I want to mention three more. Eddie Lacy from Dutchtown. Ramon Malcolm from Ruston, the most gifted big back I've ever seen from Ruston High School. And Jamie Spencer from Ouachita. And look, this guy, Jamie Spencer, signed with Notre Dame and Lou Holtz back in the day. Demetric, he was 6 foot tall, 255, ran a 4.4.
Well, my knowledge of Haynesville football is kind of limited, but because I was young, but there's a lot of guys that came before me. You want to talk about the Bobby Ray Evans that Coach Franklin told me was one of the best players he ever coached. You talk about Shannon Harris, who was probably 6'2", right?
Yeah, he was good.
Maybe 230, right? He went to Northwestern. So, there's a lot of guys that I didn't see play, so I only gave you guys that was in my era.
Yeah.
Right? But I just know for me, one of the guys that everyone talks about in the NFL that, the woulda, shoulda, coulda, it was always Cecil Collins.
Yeah. He's one that I forgot to mention. He was one of the top three from Leesville. And I always say he was Emmitt Smith. He never became Emmitt Smith, but he had all of what Emmitt Smith had and more. I thought he was built like Emmitt, and he ran like Emmitt with power and deceptive breakaway speed.
I remember I was on an unofficial visit at LSU in 1996 when LSU played Auburn, and that's the game Cecil Collins ran out of shoes.
Yeah. You were there?
And, I was there. That was one of my unofficial visits, and I was like, man, this dude is legit. He was legit.
Would he have like 290 in like a quarter or two?
Exactly. And I was like, man, Kevin Falk better try to come out of school next year because he might not have a job.
Right. Who was the best back you went against in the NFL? Was there one or two that you didn't want to tackle? Was over legit in the NFL?
When you say best back, it's different categories. But I'm just gonna give you an all around back. You got to start off with one, Marshall Falk. Yeah. Marshall Falk was just very athletic. He was smooth, and if he took his shoulder pads off and took his shirt off, you'd be like, man, this dude, no way he's a running back. but he get that ball in his hand, man. Marshall Falk, it was the truth. You talk about Jamal Lewis, who just ran with like reckless abandon. He didn't tape his ankles. He didn't tape his wrists. He was just a man child. You want to talk about who else I could think about? When Adrian Peterson first came to the league, he gave D coordinators fits. He really did. But I'm gonna tell you, when I played with the Cowboys, man, Deuce Staley he was a Cowboy killer. Every time he would play us, he would get 200 yards. I don't know if that was just his lucky night. He hated the Cowboys, but he was motivated when he would come to Dallas.
Deuce played at South Carolina, didn't he?
Correct. Deuce played at South Carolina. Correct. But I would say, though, seriously, man, those guys that are every down back, like Marshall Falk can take the ball from behind the center. You can spread him out, put him in the passing game. He can block on third down, even though Trent Difford, that's how he got Green, how he ended up losing his career, right? Because of Falk, missed the block. But, I would have to say all around back for me would be Marshall Falk, seriously.
Now, you played for Washington longer than any of the teams. You were there 4 years.
Five.
Dallas.
2000.
5 years. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Dallas 1.
No, that sounds good. 2.
San Francisco
2.
2.
Yeah.
Where do you have your closest ties, friends, and everything in those 3? Because it doesn't always mean you have more friends where you play longer. Some cities you like better. Some guys stay in touch with guys more.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it was one of those things, Lee, like you mentioned. I wasn't no buddy kind of teammate. Like I wasn't trying to be friends with everybody.
Yeah.
I wasn't the guy that wanted to hang out with everybody. I kind of was like, do my thing. I would hang out with the D-line from time to time, but man, it's really a job, man. You know what I'm saying?
You're a professional.
Yeah, it's like, man, listen, I mean, I go to work, I go back, I go home. Like, I didn't really get caught up in the whole quote unquote NFL. Like, I didn't look at it as a dream job and I'm a celebrity. I looked at it as an opportunity for me to make some money, do something I have a skill set to do, and try to do as long as I can.
Right.
It was just been that simplicity. But each stop was different, right? Because the Cowboys, when I was rookie, coming out of college, and you playing for the Cowboys, it was great. I was young. When I went to Washington is when I really started maturing as an individual, and I got married and started being a husband. And then San Fran is when I had my first child. So each stop had its memories, but overall, I probably have the best relationship probably with the Redskins, but I'm here in Dallas and I can navigate over at Cowboys Stadium as well if I wanted to, or the facility. But San Fran was kind of towards the end. I was older, guys was younger. I couldn't relate. So San Fran probably was the hardest stop.
Yeah. What do you think of you got a great job now with the NFL, helping guys transition that retire. I mean, that's a great gig to have. They don't give that to just anybody. I mean, they think a lot of you to be one of those guys to help these vets transition, right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Lee. But, yeah, man, to me, it's kind of like my ministry, right? Like,
yeah.
I have benefits that I can help guys have a better life, to help them with their family, keep their marriage together, give them a landing pad where they transition, having somebody to kind of talk to be a buffer for them. So, you know, it's kind of like the football ministry serving these players, man. And I used to, when I was a current player, it used to always bother me how the older guys would be like, man, the NFL don't care about us, and NFL this and that. And it's like, you know, everybody leaves the NFL bitter because they never made enough money or they didn't leave on their own terms. They left hurt. Mm-hmm. So you have to work through those emotions. But I tell you, NFL is the best job in America for a young man from 20 to 28 if he can get it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it really is. I can't say nothing negative about the NFL.
And tell everybody about what you're doing, too, because you're working camps for Rivals and a lot of these different companies. You're actually still a part of being around the recruits at different cities. You were in Atlanta not too many days ago, Georgia. That's
correct. I'm the D-line coach for Rivals, and they host their regional camps, and then they do their 5-step camp in Atlanta. And before COVID, we would have about 15 cities we would hit, starting in February. But because of COVID, we didn't do it last year, and then this year we only hit like 7 cities. But, yeah, I rank the top D-linemen along with rival beat writers.
Okay. Yeah, you need to call me sometime. I'll give you a heads up on these Louisiana guys, man, when they're young.
Well, see, we didn't do a camp. We didn't do a camp in Louisiana this year. So,
okay.
But when we come to New Orleans, I definitely will, so I can have a kind of cheat sheet on the personnel.
Yeah. One final question for the listeners in Louisiana. What do you miss most about Louisiana? I know food is one. Nobody gets us with the food, right? And then,
right.
And then people. I mean, I know Texas is a great state, but and I'm sure you get back every now and then. You get back to go back to your hometown in Haynesville, and I'm sure it's a great time for you when you're able to come back, right, to Louisiana.
Yeah, I would say, you know, I've lived in a number of states, but I would say the thing I miss most about Louisiana is that I feel like the people in Louisiana are not superficial. Mm-hmm. They are who they are. They're proud of who they are. They can enjoy anyone, have a good time. Like the old saying, go let the good times roll. You know, right? Like that is kind of like my personality. Don't get caught up in all the hype, you know, kind of just enjoy life for what it is, right? Don't think you more than anybody, but don't think nobody's better than you, and just enjoy it, you know?
Yeah, I know a lot of Haynesville people, residents that are going to be listening to the show, and I know we're going to send this to David Franklin and Red. I'm sure everybody's going to hear it. But any final thoughts to your hometown people back home? Any final thoughts?
I'm there every summer. I see pretty much everyone, so it's not like I've been MIA.
Right.
Just hope that we can put together a competitive team this year. I'm hosting my football camp this year on August the 5th, and just look forward to getting back and mixing up with the kids, getting me some good laughs, because to me, high school football is the purest form of football. We see that college football is going to get saturated, and high school they hanging on, man.
There's nothing like it emotionally.
Exactly right.
Communities are still strong. Mom and dad's, grandfather, grandma, everybody's in the stands. You got people in the stands that don't even have kids playing in the game that are just for the community, and that's what I love about that.
Yeah, people don't understand that, man. Sometimes you take that stuff for granted when you're not really understanding how much a football program can change the trajectory of a community.
Well, I'm proud of you because I'm proud of where you were at 16 meeting you and how you self-made yourself into a career with football and you worked hard, because I remember when you weighed around 220 your junior year, you put on a lot of weight in college, a lot of good weight, and that's hard work weight, I call it. And
Coach Franklin will tell you, I probably should have been held back because I started at 13 years old in high school varsity.
Unbelievable.
All right, so I should have been held back a year. But at the end of the day, I was kind of like a late bloomer, man. My body didn't develop until later on. So that's why I was able to kind of catch on in the NFL, because I started maturing physically the way football players should if you're going to play at that level. So.
And Demetric, you maximized it, though. I mean, you were a guy that, I knew you had the frame, 6'4", and you could move and all that, and you played hard, but you maximized. I'm just saying this for kids listening, because you were, there's a little bit of self-made there too, that you maximized and had a long career. You didn't run a 4.5, you didn't run like a 4.6 at 270, but you were a very good player, but you really worked hard.
Hey, Lee, I did run a 4.6, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, I ran a 4.68.
All right.
but no, I get it though, because I got cut and I played 2 years and got released. And I went to NFLPA but came back. And when I came back, I started for the Redskins, which now is to watch the football team. But Lee, here's the thing, man. I'm a big advocate on don't get caught up in the hype. Right. If in life there's something that you believe that you can achieve, you don't need nobody else's validation. Yeah. I never let a coach dictate how good I was. I never let a teacher dictate my intellect. Just because you gave me a B doesn't mean I'm not an A student. That's just your opinion, right?
I got a lot of C's. I know what you're saying. I got a lot of C's.
Yeah.
Better than that.
Like for an example, a teacher reads your essay, she gives you a B, but that's based on her perception of the way she wanted it written, right? So I just always a big advocate on self-esteem, believe it in myself, and like you said, man, coming from North Louisiana, the work wasn't never going to be a factor. It was just always having the right opportunity.
Yeah, everything rubbed off on you around Red Franklin and the people in the community and your family. And I see it with Joseph Evans. I see a kid coming up, your cousin, that's just serious, and he's serious in a good way. His dad's a great guy, a policeman, and I had a chance to go to lunch with him a few years ago when he was in high school, him and his dad, and incredible people. And every time I go to North Louisiana, I really enjoy my time, with the communities in North Louisiana. And it's just, there's such a strong, tight bond there. And when you meet somebody from Haynesville, they're going to tell you they're from Haynesville, and they're going to say, well, you know this guy from Haynesville? And everybody knows everybody,
Oh, yeah. When you have a town that's that small and the family's been there for generations, it's not that hard.
Well, anything you want to promote coming up? Promote your camp again, because I know you did once, but you're talking about August the 5th. You have a camp?
Yeah, but it's for the high school football team. But
okay,
it's August the 5th. But yeah, man, I don't really have anything to promote per se. I just want the state of Louisiana put a good product on the field this year in high school football, and looking forward to getting over to Haynesville with my family and checking out a game or two this year.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be on our show. And like I told you, we're growing it, and I'm bringing on all the players from the past that, came through in the last 30 years that we've been around, and really, really proud of you. And, again, I'm going to be keeping up with your boys swimming or whatever they do, tennis, golf, if they end up playing football, whatever, racquetball, whatever. And anything you need from me, obviously, I'm going to help you, with recruiting and stuff.
No, I appreciate that, Lee. I really do. That means a lot. But no, thank you for reaching out and even giving me the opportunity to be on your platform and speak to some North Louisianans and people throughout other states to get a feel for what football is like and was like in Louisiana in the mid-'90s.
That's right. About 96, something like that?
Yeah, I was in high school. I played for varsity in 94, 95, 96.
Wow. Yeah, just time is flying, Demetric. It's flying by.
Man, what are you talking about, man? That's the truth.
That's it, man. Look, don't hang up. We appreciate Demetric Evans coming on. I'm gonna close with the show. Everybody go to our website, lafootballmagazine.com. I'm actually sending Demetric a magazine. Don't hang up, Demetric, because I'm going to get your mailing address off the air and send you this coming preview. This should be 25 years that we've been around.
I appreciate it.
And everybody go to lafootballmagazine.com. Haynesville will be covered for all our Haynesville listeners and all the schools in the state. Demetric was in the magazine when we started out in 96, 97, his senior year. And we're going to have that out late August. You can go on and pre-order some magazines to support what we do, and we mail those out as a family at Louisiana Football Magazine. We'll see everybody on Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Scouting Report podcast with Lee Brecheen.